This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with the day's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... Howdy, it's Sean here. Today is an older episode we recorded about the PS2 game Mark of Kri. Had such a fun time strolling down memory lane with that game, I decided to pick it up off the PlayStation Store and see how it held up. Stay tuned to the end of the episode for my thoughts on it. And here's the episode. Video games, a subject near and dear to our hearts and that we love talking about and you love hearing us talk about. And if you don't enjoy us, then please seek help. There might be something horribly wrong with you. Today we have a beloved game from our past that we want to talk about. Games that we love so much we need to share them with the entire world. And first up, Nate, what's a game you would like to share?
My game today is Mark of Kri. I actually love that game. Just for we started recording, I realized that it was 20 years ago, actually 21, because it's 2002 when it came out, and on the PS2. I love that game so much.
That game is old enough to drink now, if it could.
Wow. It is. And let me do a little side note on talk about video games and stuff. Yesterday, we were out in Frankfurt and we went to the GameStop there. It was actually GameStop I used to manage. I ran that GameStop for a couple years, and it dawned on me I haven't run that GameStop in about 10 years. It's been 10 years ago. I'm like, oh man.
In your mind, it's about 3 years ago.
Yeah. And so I went in there just like, okay, let me see how it looks. Let me see what the store looks like. It really has been like 10 years since I've been in there, because that wasn't even the last store I ran. The last store I ran was in the city I'm in now. But yeah, I ran that store for a year or so, and it was a decent sized store. And I go in there. Of course it looks different. Duh. Things change, but they had the same, when I was there, they had the same carpeting. You know how they put little tile block carpets? They had that same tile block carpet for, it's always been the same for years. Decades it'd been there. And now it's like this white kind of laminate floor. And it used to be, now here I am. I'm going to sound like a person complaining about MTV, but I'm going to do it anyway. I went in there and it used to be video games. It's called GameStop. They sold video games. It was mainly video games, and you had a small section that had maybe a couple toys and trinkets or whatever. It is the opposite now. You walk in there. It's mainly, honestly, it was like walking to a Suncoast.
Or like
remember
a Hot
those?
Topic almost. Yeah, Suncoast music.
Well, Hot Topic's more clothes, but they sold clothes too. They sold all these figurines. They sold all these. They're selling Funko Pops and T-shirts. They were selling a scooter. What? And they're of course the setups were all nicer. Again, it's been 10 years. I get it. I was kind of jealous because the old setups we used to have were a lot crappier. But then again, when I worked there, the PS5 wasn't out, nor was the Xbox One. Nor was the Switch. Nope. The Switch. I think the Switch was about to come out. Like when the Switch is coming out when I.
Yeah, I think the Switch is about 5 years old now.
No, okay. I take it back. Nope, Switch wasn't out yet. It was still the Wii. So, Wii U. That's what it was. It was the Wii U. And so, it really kind of bummed me out, man. Like, going into a GameStop nowadays, it's just not, it's not what it was. And again, I know MTV doesn't play music videos anymore. I get it. But it's just, you'd think of a place called GameStop, they would still have. Now, I also do understand. I get it, because
digital games probably cut into their profits quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Because,
and it's
funny, trade in a digital game.
It's funny too, because when I remember having a talk with my district manager, it was about a year before I left, and he goes, "Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?" That stupid question.
Yeah.
He's trying to see, gauge like what's my interest in the company. And at the time, I actually had I was wanting to move up. I want to become a district manager, because I don't. When I go into a business, it used to be this way. My current job, I don't want to move up. I don't want to even be here. But in GameStop, I actually wanted to grow in the company and go from a store manager to a district manager to possibly a regional manager.
From a little GameStop-ling up to a GameStop boss.
Yeah. And of course it was because of the money. I didn't, ultimately, even GameStop.
It's not like when you're 8 years old, you're starry-eyed looking at GameStop being like, someday I will work there and run a place.
I'll tell you what, though, working at GameStop, now this is true to my district. I talked to people who worked at other districts. They enjoy their job a lot more. Even that job, my God, dude, to date, the most stressful job I've ever had, because they were just on their boot was on my neck every effing day about make sure you sell used. Don't do this. Pre-orders, sell the
Yep.
the
Here's a list of
magazine,
games that you have to push.
and they would
Get
give
an
me
email
like
being like, "We're not seeing enough pre-orders out of this game. What's the
exactly.
deal?"
And then even scheduling, they would give me, and this is not exaggeration, dude. I'm not exaggerating. There were times they gave me 9 hours. I would get they would give me more than that, but like once I actually gave I was salary, but once once I gave my assistant manager his hours, which was usually about 30, I had 9 hours to distribute between 6 or 7 employees.
Oh,
That's nothing. I mean, that's 2 shifts. If
yeah.
2 3 hour, oh, no, sorry, it's 3 3 hour shifts, and and the rest of it was just me and my assistant manager. So I can. That's not even considering the third key. There was, so it was just it's
Yeah.
madness. And
So, and then you got to figure out how to entice employees with such little hours.
right, and well, the enticement was, oh, you can check out games, but it's like they want money.
Yeah.
Sure, the game thing is fine, but they want to get paid. Of
Yeah.
course they do.
Yeah, you can't send your landlord some video games and be like, "Hey, borrow these for a month."
So anyway, my distant manager goes, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I remember going, "I don't know how GameStop's going to be doing in 5 years." This is probably the wrong answer, but he did not want to
It
hear
was
this.
truthful though.
It was truthful. I go, with digital sales on the rise, like I was actually starting to buy my games digitally because I worked at a GameStop and I still bought my games digitally because it was just easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I don't know how well GameStop will be doing. And boy, was that prescient. Like, I tell you what, man, like after I left a few years later, it was the 5 years mark, and it was already like, GameStops were
Yeah, when
crashing.
they're talking about how they're shutting down about a third of them or whatnot.
Yeah. And fortunately, the store I was managing, it was actually, I guess, good thing that I was gone because they ended up hiring one manager to manage 2 different stores. So they were just managing the store I had, and they were managing a store that was like 15 miles away, and they had to go back and forth. And they were just raking this poor manager over the coals just because, it was a job. And I mean, I was getting, just to go ahead and peek behind the curtain, I was only getting paid like 35 a year.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. When I
that's not
left,
much.
when I left, I was getting 36 a year, and I was working between 60 to 70 hours a week.
Okay, so instead you're making closer to like 25 when you figure in the
Right.
hours.
And I mean, it costs so much problem. Here, then also, like we're trying to raise kids and all this stuff. And I'm working nights, weekends, holidays. I'm
And if
so
somebody ever
glad.
calls in sick, you got to show up and cover it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was like no exaggeration. There was one week where I worked every day for at least 5 hours, and some of those days I was there for 12 hours. It's just
And not making overtime either is a bummer
nope.
because at least some of those jobs, if you get shafted like that, like if I got to work a bunch of hours, I can at least get overtime. So I can sit there on, hour 48 and be like, well, at least I'm going to have a good paycheck. But when you don't
Yeah.
even have that to look forward to, it's just
It
awful.
is. And so anyway, like GameStop. Seriously, like
Yeah.
if
And
they
also, after I saw like what they gave for trade-ins on certain things and how they tend to screw over customers if they could.
oh yeah, I mean, because they would legitimately be angry. The people would come in, they spent $60 on a video game, they want to trade it in. They've only had it for a couple of weeks, but unfortunately for these people, a bunch of other people have traded them before them. So now
Yep.
I actually have too
Yeah,
many
probably.
used games.
There's got to be
It's
like a huge run on used games, like about a week or two after they come out, when everybody beats them at the same time. And it's like,
right.
hey, I got to get this in and trade it in while the value's still high. Because I
So they're
do
trying
remember
to
when games first came out, you could get almost like $30 trade in back on them
right.
or something. But then after like the first week, it plummeted to, I don't know, 10 or less.
Yeah, they would come in with this game. They're like, "Hey, I want to trade this in." I'm like, "Okay, we'll give you $15 for it." And they're like, and that's trading credit. If they want cash, it was less,
Oh
and
yeah,
they would be
$7.
legitimately angry. And I would just be like, "Yeah, I would sympathize with them, but I'm like, there's nothing I can do." And they'd be like, "Well," especially when people would buy it, buy a game. In a lot of times, used games, they would do this too. They would buy a game and they would beat it within like 2 days, and they would try to return it. I'm like, no, you can't return this. You have to trade it in. Now, then that's what the sticky part is. If they came in and said, um, "Oh, they already had this game. I want to return it." We can return it. But if they were coming in and they were stupid enough to say the words, "We've already beaten this," I
Yep.
can't take the game out.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
I
Like,
always had a story for stuff like that where it's like, oh yeah, my grandma bought me this and it turns out blah, 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 or something, or come up with, an excuse
yeah,
on why I'm returning it that I didn't obviously play it. I already had a
I,
copy.
I had one lady, she, no joke, like because the return policy was the back of the receipt, she scoured that receipt trying to find some way out of it. And I'm like, look, lady, that was written by lawyers, and while I agree, like that your game bought your kid bought Manhunt and beat it, he bought it new and he beat it in a day and now he's dissatisfied, wants his money back.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Was it Manhunt on the Wii, I'm guessing?
Yeah, it was Manhunt on the Wii. He beat it in a day and he came back wanting to return it. And of course, it does also, like, we're kind of rural Kentucky, so these are rough rednecks. And so I'm not exactly fearing for my life, but I'm also not they're, I don't know, like that. My bias is creeping through about,
but yeah, you never know when Bubba Gump's going to be hanging outside by your car
and
afterwards.
She sat there and like they literally stood in front of my register for almost 10 minutes trying to like read through the back of the receipt and argue with me. And I'm like, you bought a brand new game, you played it and you beat it. That's not my fault. You should have rented that. You should have gone to rent it, and then you've been done. But I'm not. By this point, it's also like I was annoyed. So by God, they were not. I was not giving their money back.
Yeah.
Like if you want your back, you go to corporate, and corporate might, just to get you out of their hair, give you money back.
If you scream loud enough at corporate, they might give you something to shut up and go away.
Oh, dude, that will 100% work. I mean, a lot of places, if you scream loud enough, I'm just not willing to go through that rigmarole. Like for a lot of stuff, because the way I treat it is, politeness is free, and you actually get a lot further being polite and nice, and even funny. You'll actually get a lot more. But that being said, if you're mean, cruel, and loud, you'll actually get more. So not only like just to get rid of you, they'll dread you coming in. You're not going to have a good experience going forward, but you're going to get what you want if you're mean. And I know that because I've been told on several occasions where my district manager had to come down and say, apologize and give them what they want, even though I was in the right and they were being assholes. But I still had to apologize and give them and give what they wanted. Oh, I hated that. So glad I'm not retail anymore. I'm so glad I'm not retail.
Oh, I hear you on that. Dealing with the public is one of the hardest jobs you can ever do at times, depending on who you have to deal with.
Absolutely. I told all my daughters, like, you're going to work something. Like, you are working with the public. Your first few jobs, you must work in the public, like deal in the general public, so you understand what it's like out there. And so
you know what it's like with that poor person working in the line at Kroger's who's getting yelled at. You can empathize with them a little bit.
Yeah. So,
or not yell at them yourself because you know what it's like.
Every so often, though, like I'll get upset about something, and my family, my wife and daughters treat me like being a Chad or a Karen or whatever, a male Karen. I'm like, no, I have a legitimate gripe here. They did something that it's pissed me off. And I'm not being unreasonable here. They legitimately did something wrong and it needs to be fixed. And they're just like, oh, Daddy, just let it go. I'm like,
well, the thing is, they're just so not used to you being that way. Then when they see that, it confuses and frightens them and they don't know how to handle it.
I guess. I don't know.
So they handle it by being sarcastic.
Yes. Anyway, speaking of anger, Mark of Kri. Mark of Kri.
Yep. Rao did indeed have some anger issues. He had good reasons for that too. People he knows being killed and whatnot. And
see, that's the thing. Like we were talking about the games, and I'm glad I told you my game before because you went out there and got some info on it. Because I just remember playing the game, and I remember how it made me feel, and I just loved. You load that game up, and it was Disney. You had
the cutscenes, especially, and those cutscenes were amazing. The way they were all drawn in, it would start with like basically a blank screen, and they would draw in the entire cutscene slowly.
Yeah, and the character designs were very Disney, and just the way the look, feel, and everything about the environment and the characters, even the bad guys, were all Disney until you actually start fighting. And when you start fighting, man, that's like you did some brutal, twisted things to the enemy while you were playing.
Grab a guy and stick him to the wall with your spear. Just slowly shank him through the back.
Well, it was especially the stick on the wall. Like you would grab him, stick on the wall, and then you would look around. Like, does anybody see that? And The fighting system, I actually like the fight system on there, but I think when we talked about this earlier, like you're right, you really didn't be stealthy. If you wanted to beat that game, stealth was the way to go. You could, it's like those games where like Hitman, it's like, oh yeah, they say, oh no, you can beat the game if you go all guns blazing. It's just gonna be harder. Like it's not harder; it's near impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm not saying it can't be done. I mean, there's someone might be listening right now. They're like, well, I did that. Well, good for you. I couldn't. When I play those games and I start blasting everything, like I end up getting killed.
Because it was one of those games too. It was very early on in the life of third-person action games, and fighting large groups of people wasn't exactly hammered out that well, like it was in like Batman is nowadays. Because I don't know if you remember, but you'd use the right stick, and this little like red line would swing out, and you'd use that to select everybody that you'd fight. So you'd use the right stick, and you like vroom vroom and select everybody, and they get little X's and squares and circles above their head.
But that also worked really well too, because you're right, they hadn't hammered out the details yet. However, once you did the vroom vroom and everyone got like a button designated them, you could fight 3 guys all at once by hitting like, okay, triangle, you took the guy in the neck, in front of you, square, you took the left, or I can't remember button layouts, circle right, square left, try, so you could like attack, boom, boom, boom. You actually do really good at holding 3 people off.
Yeah, for the most part, the one problem I didn't like is you couldn't really adjust the camera much in it for those fights. I mean, you could tilt it like, I think it was like maybe 15 degrees either way, but there was like no spin the camera around to look at things. And that kind of made things a little more difficult.
I mean, it did.
And also another thing too.
Oh, shit. Just a minute, time out.
Yep.
I now know the question that sages used to ask back in the day. They would gather all the kids together, and the old sage would slowly hobble up, and he would just, get his hands in the cane, and he like, okay, children, can anyone tell me what happens when you put 2 eggs in a thing to hard boil them, then completely forget they're there? Until the smell hits you from several rooms away of the plastic burning from the egg timer. The answer being 1 egg will explode like a hand grenade, and it found shells literally across the room on the windowsill, and the plastic egg timer is now melted to the pan.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's 1 shell that's like 1 egg actually still was in the pan, no water in there whatsoever. It's all evaporated and has broken apart, and the eggshells burning. I see your time.
I don't think I've ever heard or seen an eggshell burn before.
Oh my god! It's like I'm just like to see you're talking. I'm smelling. I'm having a little.
Hey, eggs. That smells kind of good. Somebody's cooking.
No, I just smell burning. I'm like, why am I smelling burning? And then it hit me. Fuck. Yeah, woo. I mean, I'll clean it up later because we're recording.
Good thing your word was like, well, that's weird. I wonder. I'll just ignore it for now.
Oh my god, dude! There is like I can't. There's egg. That 1 egg exploded. It is everywhere. Like, of course, it's 1 egg, so it's not like covered. But there's like,
look around the kitchen. There's gonna be like chunks of shell like stuck into the wall, like ninja throwing stars.
I mean, when I went to go lift the windows, it's across the room. It's probably like 10 feet away. No, probably 20 feet away. I went to go lift the windows, and there was an eggshell on the windowsill. I'm like, wow. That was that must have exploded. And of course, me having the earphones, I didn't hear it. But wow.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I'm surprised you didn't hear it, but yeah, the headphones and talking. But
so yeah, I now know what happens when you hard boil eggs and then forget completely about them
to the point where the water all boils out. The eggs explode.
Oh, dude, I can't believe that happened. I mean, I started it, and then we started doing this, and I'm not even high. I'm totally sober, and I just forgot about it.
I can picture now, like right before we start recording, you're like putting the eggs on the cooking. You're like, wonder when Sean wants to record. Oh, now, okay, I'll go do something.
Well, I thought I would remember.
Time passes.
I didn't even set a timer. I should have set like a timer or something on. I just like,
Yeah, you should have set a timer. It was foolish of you to assume you'd remember.
Oh, totally stupid.
Literally, you probably could have been standing there staring at the eggs and forgot about them at one point.
Yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about? That totally just like that made everything else leave my brain.
The
Violence
egg was exploding everywhere, much like Rao's anger at the enemy.
Exactly. Oh man, so yeah, it would assign the buttons to each enemy, so you actually could hold off. I remember doing fairly well with that, because there were several times where like stealth was all well and good, but sometimes you couldn't. You had to
Oh
fight
yeah,
these
you had to
guys.
fight. And also it had that thing too where if you're too close to a wall or a tree, your sword would bounce off it or get stuck in it.
That's right, it did happen. That
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, which some people really hated that. I thought it was kind of neat. And also the
no,
thing too was if you had your sword was sticky and stuff, switch to a spear. That's what the game was telling you. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it also just
also it's
it's
realistic. Try hitting a sword wall with the sword and see what
it was a
happens.
little realistic. I mean, it really did kind of give you a feeling like, okay, I need to be smart about this because
Yeah.
I can't just walk in this room and swing my shit around like an asshole. I need to actually like pay attention to where I am and what's happening.
Yeah, it was almost like survival action in a slight way. Because I don't remember if you could really heal in that game or not. You must have
I
been able to.
I think so. I'm not sure if it was like a heal or if it was just like one of those overtime things. Like, okay, I wouldn't hit
Yeah.
right. I get at combat, my life comes back a little bit.
And one thing that I forgot until I was doing research that really made this game cool, especially the battles. Remember, it had dynamic music. So as your health went down, the enemies got more plentiful. Like the drums would pick up their rhythm and get louder, and the entire like orchestra would start swelling while you're fighting.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
really remember that.
Well,
It got pretty intense towards the end because usually the last thing you'd hear is just people banging on bongos right before you die like a
yeah,
madman.
yeah, I do remember that now.
Dead.
I'll tell you what though, like I as much as I love that game in my memory, I just I didn't like the second one. I tried to play it.
Same here. The Rise of Kasai. I don't remember what it was I didn't like about it, but no, I did not like it.
and I think what may have happened is happened to both of us. So we played Mark of Kri, and as you mentioned, there it was kind of like in its infancy. It was really good for what it was when it was,
Exactly. And
but
by the time the second came out, more things have surpassed it.
right, like you now you kind of got a taste like, oh, this is also how it can go, and like this, oh yeah, this you as interesting as that was, this is a little bit better. So we started playing Mark of Kri 2. It just some of the magic was
Yeah.
just
It was
lost.
like going from Doom 1 to Quake and then back to Doom 2 almost, where you're just like, oh, I've played better versions of this now.
Yeah, it's just or even like GoldenEye. Yeah, I tried to play GoldenEye the other day, and it's just I'm first of all I'm not very good at first person shooters. Not really playing that much. I'm not a big first person shooter fan. I like to get on there a little bit and run around and shoot things, but I am not good. And so one of my frustrations is I'm not willing to put in the effort to get good at a first person shooter game anymore.
Not going to do those no scope 360s.
Yeah, I don't care. I when I play now because my time to play is so few. When I play a game, I don't have the time to really again get good. I want to get on there and enjoy myself. I don't feel like banging my
Experience
head.
the story, experience the
Yeah,
combat.
so I put on easy when I play a game. I'm one of those people. I used to not be those people. I used to at least play on normal, or if I was feeling a little squirrely, I put it on hard. But I mean, even now, like my kind of mindless game I go to is Ghost of Tsushima, and I'll play. I'm already on New Game Plus, so not only do I have all the equipment, not all of it, but I have most of the equipment. I'm slowly kind of getting the extra stuff. And almost all of my equipment I do have are maxed out, except for the New Game Plus as an additional level you raise it, and that takes a lot of saving. So I've only like maxed out one or two of my armor, but even still, I'm in the opening part of the game. Well, not opening. I've just now got to the second part of the island, and so I'm still fighting like peasants with sticks. Every so often
Farmer Joe running up with his little sickle, and you're just like, ha
yeah.
ha.
I mean, I fight Mongols. There's definitely still some Mongols around, and like they're starting to get a little more difficult. But I still do run on little bandits. Like, oh, let's get them. Like, dude, you're not. Come on, man. Look at me. Like,
Yeah, I'm covered head to toe in blood, and I'm carrying the scalps of all your friends. So.
yeah. I mean, there's like the Grim Reaper behind me is like jerking off to the things I'm doing, and like, why you really shouldn't be here.
Just Grim Reaper's just following you around, lady. This guy's put my kids through college.
Yeah, right. So just hide. I'm not going to look for you if you're not around here. But I will tell you this: if I do slaughter all your brethren, and you do finally decide to wise up to run away, like I do sometimes, I will. I'm going to hunt you down. Like I'm gonna follow you or shoot you with the arrow. Like I don't let people go unless like something happens where I get stuck on a tree or
But
something
otherwise,
stupid happens.
you're gonna let them run until they're tired and then kill them while they're worn out.
Yeah, I'm not. They're not getting away. I'm going to end their lives. So they
Maybe
need to
not
go ahead
today,
and
maybe
accept
not
that.
tomorrow. 30 years in the future at his granddaughter's wedding, there I am officiating, and I kill him there. I am a patient killer, ever so patient.
Like the family's sobbing in the ceremony. Like, what did he do? Oh, he tried to rob me once, but he reformed. He's now a monk. I don't care.
All he does is works with underprivileged children and the starving. He is a wonderful man. And be like, well, he looked at me funny about 15 years ago. So,
30 years ago, he tried to shoot me with an arrow before he took off. No one does that.
Yeah, right. He was even very regretting about shooting that arrow at me and apologized while doing it. But still, I can tell he didn't want to attack me. He had to, but
he has sent me several letters appealing for my forgiveness.
Apologizing, explaining the whole situation out. I won't hear none of it. Partly because I can't.
Never. But yeah, I mean, I really, I'm glad I brought Mark of Kri. I really loved the gameplay and playing it. I just, and I brag about it to people. I'm now sitting here like, what else did I, outside of just the real feeling I got playing that? I love the animation style. I love the violence.
One thing that game did too is it very much had a strong Samurai Jack vibe to it.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, the art style, just the overall story of it, the flow, the strong, badass, silent type.
And I feel like the narrator was also...
The narrator was a big part of it.
Yeah. Was it the guy from... I feel like it was the dude from Conan. Was it the same guy?
The narrator... are we talking about the narrator for Kri or for Samurai Jack?
Conan.
Oh,
sorry, Kri. Mark of Kri, the guy who the kind of like the narrator going, oh, here's Raw, he's gonna murder a bunch of people.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same guy. It does kind of sound like him.
Yeah, so whether it was him or not, it sounded like that guy. I'm not gonna sit here and say it was because I don't know. And I tried to look at the voice actors beforehand, and the thing is, like, I look at the voice actors and I'm like, I don't know who these people are.
Rao, Rao, the giant Maori warrior. He was voiced by a dude named Wally Wingert, the least Maori name ever.
Yeah.
This is the first video game to feature a Maori in it.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, I was unaware of that. 2002, first game that had Maori in it. And apparently the Maori community wasn't overly thrilled with this. First of all, they kind of saw it as a sign of, cultural appropriation is it coming. But they also really wish that Sony had asked them or the studio had asked them for some input because one of the weapons you get in that game is called a taiha. It's a type of spear. And apparently he uses it completely wrong in the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I guess, understandably, kind of offended some of the indigenous Maoris. So yeah, they weren't like pissed at the game, but they're kind of like, you could have came and talked to us about this beforehand and we would have helped you out. Because, all the tattoos in there are Maori, the whole look of it, the culture, a lot of culture cues.
Well, I'm looking at the guy who played the narrator, and I recognize his face, but I'm not seeing, like, he did a lot of voice work for stuff. I mean, the only thing that really jumps out at me is he played Jun Sato from the Rebels, which I'm still watching, so I haven't seen all that. I mean, I know what happens. I've seen clips. There's no spoiling Rebels for me. I mean, I don't think it's spoiling Rebels for anybody. I mean, if you've seen Star Wars, you know where it goes. What else did he play? He played several characters in Avatar. He played...
Keone Young was the voice of the narrator.
Yeah, and I recognize his face. That's why I'm trying to see if he did any live action stuff, and I'm seeing mainly this voice actor work.
He was the young emperor in Samurai Jack. Yep. So there's that.
Oh, well, whatever. I recognize him, and I could have swore he was in like an actual, like he himself played in TV, but I guess I just recognize him from other stuff.
Yeah, he's got a few live action roles here. He was like in Sons of Anarchy and True Blood. But yeah, it is almost overwhelmingly all voice stuff. He was in Will and Grace, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, which I guess was a animation thing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, good on him. I mean, I have mad respect for voice actors, really.
Oh, I'd love to do that for a living.
I used to not. I mean, I'm not gonna say I like shat on voice actors, like, oh, whatever, voice actors. Yeah. No point was ever like that, but just I guess in my head I was kind of thought like, your quote unquote real actors, and then you have voice actors. But I have since, especially since going to animation school, I have mad respect for voice actors now. I mean, it is.
Fun fact: a lot of actual actors can't do voice acting. You'd be surprised.
I believe it.
Yep.
I mean, but some
there
actors
was a
are
story for one of the Lord of the Rings games. I was listening to a voice actor, and I think it's Rob Paulson. But they actually got the actor who played Gimli to come in and do a bunch of lines for the Lord of the Rings game. And because he mumbled so bad and had a hard time just like reading what's on a piece of paper, talking at the same time, they had to have Rob Paulson come in and redo all the lines, every last one. Just because like nothing was usable.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
And also, too, once you become a good voice actor, you show up in everything. Rob Paulson is probably in a third to a half of everything we've ever listened to. Same with Jim Cummings and a few others.
I've heard mixed things about that Gimli actor too, like John Rhys Davies, or Davies, whatever. I don't know. I've heard good and bad things about him. I definitely know one of the more famous stories, at least him as Gimli, was he was playing Gimli, and then the people he'd be fighting going, look, don't hit us. It's okay if you do, but try not to. And he would go through and like on purpose hit every single one. Just hit him. And it's just, what are you going to do? He's this old man dressed as a dwarf. He's going around whacking people. And he was miserable in that makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember seeing that clip of after the last day's shooting, they held a big ceremony where he burned his face. The prosthetics. Which part of me is like, okay, I get symbolically, but I hope that was the real one. Because come on, man, you have a piece of history. Like you have, those prosthetics. I would have
pocketed and taken it home with me, unless you do hate it that much, I guess. Because
if you did, even if it was like that, I have permanent scars because of this stuff, and I will have nightmares the rest of my lives wearing this makeup. I'm still going to keep it because you're an effing Lord of the Rings. Like sell it. You can sell the pocket in like several $100,000 for that stuff.
Auction it off for charity. Do the nice thing.
I guess.
Ha! Nope. Gonna keep it mounted on the wall.
I'm
gonna make them look at it and possibly make them put it on.
I know I sound like an asshole saying it like that, but you know what? I guess because charity, yay. I guess I
just waste the money anyways on commercials for the Super Bowl, which not really wrong on that.
Well, I mean, I guess I just go every time charity. I think yes, I believe in charity. I believe in giving my time and stuff like that. But I guess because of the financial area I'm in, I like people are like, oh, can you give? I'm like, no, I actually need. Please give me. Like I need money. I have bills to pay.
Oh yeah. In your current situation, no, don't give anybody anything. But if you're John Rhys Davies, who has money,
yeah, I mean, and he's been around for forever. I actually first time I saw him. Well, okay, technically the first time I saw him was in Indiana Jones, but the first time I actually really paid attention to him was on that stupid ass TV show Sliders.
Oh, I remember that. That was kind of a good show from what I recall.
It was, I say stupid ass, but to be honest, it was actually pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. It kind of was stupid ass in the sense it was sort of low budgetish, kitschy kind of.
Well, it was a sci-fi show. I mean, there was a lot of sci-fi shows. I mean, to this day, I will fight anybody who says the show's bad, and I legitimately get upset whenever my wife makes fun of it because she's not into sci-fi stuff. Like, and she thinks all sci-fi stuff is ridiculous. I mean, she like Star Wars, she tolerates, and like Star Trek to a point, I guess. But like by and large, like the sci-fi stuff, she just thinks it's silly. So
I would have thought she'd be more into Star Trek than Star Wars. Odd.
Well, she was like her parents used to watch Next Generation back in the day, so she can tolerate it. But that's just not her thing. Sci-fi and fantasy's never really been her thing. I've definitely had her watch things like she loved Andor. She loved the hell out of Andor, but because it was a dramatic story that was realistic.
The sci-fi setting almost took a second backseat towards the actual story. Because you could have like warped around the scenarios and made it medieval or modern day or anything and still had it work.
It could have been modern day. Like instead of spaceships, it was cars. Like when he first killed those people, it was in like New York, and then he went back home to Chicago, and they followed him.
A timeless story.
Yeah, so it's that she loved Andor, but shows like Sliders or Farscape, the entire like the sci-fi part is the show. She starts getting kind of like whatever. But Farscape, that's a show I'll kill anybody. Like Farscape was amazing. I love that. Now, was every episode a banger? No, of course not. That's stupid. There were absolutely episodes of Farscape that was like, okay, this is dumb. But I mean,
Any show
Have you
that
ever,
features the Jim Henson Creature Workshop is okay by me.
yes, I mean,
I mean,
did
that
you
is
ever
one of
watch,
those scenes. If I see it like they got Jim Henson puppets, then they can't be that bad.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
know
that's
this is
a
not a
bad way
Farscape
to.
show. Although I do want to talk about it one day. I would actually like to talk about Farscape because God, I love that show. But do you ever see that?
Actually, no, I haven't. I've been wanting
Okay,
to, but
it is. I mean, it was they did that show dirty, and then they gave it kind of a appropriate ending because they, little bit of spoilers. So they go, several seasons. I think they had 4 seasons, and it was really good. Like the characters were invested. And the last episode, the very end of the last episode of the final season, they didn't know was a final season. They killed the main character. The main character and his love interest. They killed them. In fact, they disintegrate them. And that's the end of the episode. And of course, they're going to pick it up the next season. That doesn't come.
yeah. But then the network doesn't pick it up, and
so, what happened was the Farscape people had such an outcry of like fury and fan. It was kind of like what they did with
the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I guess the Snyder Cut.
I mean, that's kind of a bad example, but
it is. But I think did. Oh no, that was still DVD shows. Anyway, it's happened before. I'm totally blanking. I know
Family Guy revival, maybe.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about the Family Guy revival,
that.
but that was more about money because
Yeah.
the DVD sales did it. Whatever. You know what? Anybody listening, pick one. I made that one.
Yep.
And they came out with a 4-episode movie. So it was a 4-hour movie. So they broke it into 4 episodes. So it's kind of like they instead of calling it a mini series, which that's what it really was. They build it as a movie, and they split up in 2 halves. So like 2-hour movies. And they really did wrap it all up. No, was it in a nice little bow? Was there no complaints? No, of course.
Yeah. But for what they had to work with.
For the time they were given, they did the best they could. And they really did. Like they really did kind of tie everything up to at least you didn't feel as gypped, especially as
you could tell they put effort to making one of the fans all be satisfied.
Yeah. I mean, it was satisfied enough.
Yeah.
So
it's satisfied best you could do in 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So, good God, how do we even get here?
Yeah, we've just been talking about all sorts of things. Now we're Farsight. You know who has Farsight? Your bird sidekick in Mark of Kri. You remember him? You actually had a bird that you could actually send out to scout things and look and mark people. That
was actually really good.
Cool.
That was really helpful, especially with the stealth aspect of it. Knowing
because you could send them around the corner and be like, "Oh, there's 5 guys here, all facing the wrong way."
And that's the thing about like even the Hitman games and stuff. Like you have that, if without that 3D view, even Batman, if you want to go, another type, if without that kind of acknowledgement of where the enemies were, the game is a lot harder.
Yeah,
and I would even say not as fun. Because sure, you're like, oh no, realistic. Then play another game. And one thing with the Hitman, okay.
I was gonna say, Bird Sidekick was also the narrator for the show or the game.
Was it?
Yep.
I guess
at the very
it was.
end, he was like, "And my master." Yeah, he's like giving the rundown. And he's like, "And now I follow my master continuously as his faithful sidekick, Kuzu." Something along those lines.
It was me the whole time.
And I also like the fact that they had a pretty legit bad guy in this game, too. The Necromancer is known as the Dark One. This whole thing was basically just going around kidnapping people and flaying the skin off of them. Because I don't remember, but the Mark of Kri was all these different birthmarks that like 5 different families had. And the birthmark was on their skin. And apparently you had to like bring the skins all together to complete the mark. So this Dark One was just going around flaying the skin off of everybody.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And there's also one kind of cool mission. I like it sometimes when the good guys fail. And they're like, "Hey, this child's about to get sacrificed by the Dark One. You need to go save him." So you take your mission, you go all the way out there and you confront the Dark One, but you fail. You actually don't manage to save the kid. The kid gets killed and the bad guy gets the mark. And then you're like, "Uh-oh, this might have been trapped." And you head back home and while you're failing at that mission, the bad guy had your entire family wiped out in town.
Well, I forgot about this game. Yeah. That makes me want to play it again. Like I really want to play it again.
Remember the one dude, too, with a hook for a hand and an eye patch? And every once in a while, you'd be like, "I bet you I know how he lost that eye."
Right.
Takes a while to get used to a hook hand. You got itchy eye, and next thing you know.
I had to pick my nose, and there it goes.
I went on there in about 40 minutes. You can watch all the cutscenes from the game. A little bit less than that. That's where I picked up some of this info from.
Yeah, I mean, I really miss that game. The more I think about, because the whole reason about this game up was just like I had a emotional, visceral attachment to how I played that game. But the more we talk about it, I'm really glad you did the research on it because I realized I forgot a lot about that game.
And also, when you're fighting, the dude twirled a sword a lot. Remember, you'd be like slash, slash, and then you'd like twirled it around in his hand like a baton, kind of, and then slash, slash, slash again.
Because I mean, the whole fighting system was so unique and so good.
Yeah, for the time, it was like nothing we'd ever experienced, really, as far as I know.
And then I remember the main boss was hard. I mean, it took me a while to beat him.
It was one of those boss battles that I kind of hate, where the boss shows up, you hit him twice, then he jumps up on his throne, and like 50 waves of generic baddies come at you, and then you beat them all, and then the bad guy jumps down, you get to get 2 more whacks in, and then he jumps back up on his throne. You know those?
Well, and the thing I hate about those is like, and then if you lose, they're like, haha, you could never beat the power of me. I'm like, you didn't do anything.
Yeah,
you called more people. You called other people here. This says more about you than me.
Huh.
I mean, not just this game, but any of the games, or hell, even like movies or cartoons, or where you have a big boss who hides behind 25 people, and you're like,
that doesn't prove how tough the boss is. That just proves how good he is at hiring day laborers to do jobs.
It proves you're a dick. Like you can't, you're not more powerful. Your weakness. Well, no, dude, come on, like come down here. Yeah, I mean, I get it. If it's like Lex Luthor facing Superman, I mean, okay, sure. Lex Luthor's not about to like do fisticuffs against the Kryptonian. But but if you're a fighter and you have some guy who's trying to challenge you and you're like, let me prove how badass I am. Go fight my minions.
Yeah,
and
right.
Only after he slaughters all 100 of you, then will I deign to come
and you're all
down.
nice and tired and worn out. And...
Yeah, he crawls into the door bleeding and sweating and gasping for breath. Watch how I kick his ass. Look how strong I am.
But before that, I'm going to bring out the children and families of all these hundreds of people you murdered before this fight. I'm going to use emotional damage on you.
Yes,
Daddy,
look
at
the tears.
Daddy. I want you to explain to each of these children why you killed their father. Then we will fight.
He's just like, because they were bitches. Well, there you go. That's why I killed your daddy. Now go, my orphans. Kill him.
My army of orphans.
They were orphans, but now they are.
With the combined power of 1,000 orphans. And they all just like form together to the giant formless blob that turns into a giant orphan.
Like the babies
orphan.
Like the babies on Invader Sim.
Yes, exactly like that. Oh, one thing I do remember about this game, that it was a small niggle, but it was a niggle nonetheless. The triangle button was what you used to talk to people and back out of menus, not X and circle. So if you want to like run up and talk to somebody, you had to push triangle, which, I mean, not really a big deal, but still kind of odd in a world where you're used to pushing square or X.
Well, at least it wasn't like Red Dead Redemption. It's like, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. Blam! Damn it!
Ha! Yes. Why'd you go and shoot my buddy? I didn't mean to. I just pushed the wrong button.
Like,
that's crazy talk, stranger.
Why did you kill the whole town? Well, you see, I went to go talk to the sheriff, and I accidentally shot him in the face. And then someone saw me do that, so I had to kill that person. And then someone else saw me do that, so I did that person.
Yep.
And just imagine a snowball going down the hill. Yeah. that's basically what happens. That's why Arizona is devoid of life now.
And that's why we're the only 2 people left in the basin now. So Mark of Kri did actually get really, really good reviews. We're talking like, 85s and 90s all across the board. Unfortunately, it didn't sell that great. Only 460,000 sales total.
Is that well? I was like, is that true? I guess it is.
Well, for comparison, San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas came out around the same time, and that sold 1.2 million copies a day for a while.
That's not fair. That's not fair. That's like, fucking Star Wars came at the same time as the Bridges of Madison County, and the Bridges of Madison County, they didn't do very well. Like, well, yeah.
I'm not saying it's because of those sales. I'm just saying as a comparison. Yeah, because I don't think there's a lot of crossover between Grand Theft Auto and Mark of Kri people.
Well, also Bridges of Madison County, I'm pretty sure didn't come out at the same time as Star Wars, but still, just
maybe the book might have, maybe.
Yeah. But I just pulled a random ass movie out. That's for some reason that was the first thing that popped in. But
Bridges,
yeah,
Madison County. That's the one where we got to see Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep go at it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I haven't seen it. I
haven't seen it either. I just remember that being the thing. Be like, ooh, look, old people getting it on.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where like, oh, I should watch this, and I never will. But yeah, I mean, I get
it's
it.
It's a movie about building bridges,
Well,
Clint Eastwood wandering around. That's the Jackson Bridge. That's the Northampton Bridge. We have 4 bridges in Madison County.
It's like talk about shrimp on with it on Forrest Gump. Like there's shrimp and there's shrimp. Anyway, but Mark of Kri, like I get it. I understand. Because you have Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. First of all, it's it's coming out from a franchise, and it's Grand Theft Auto. I mean, it's gonna sell. I mean, hell, look at Grand Theft Auto 5. They're still selling it. They're coming out with new iterations on.
Oh God, yeah.
And they need to come out with 6. It's just like Skyrim. It's like, come on, we all love GTA 5. We all love Skyrim. Can we move on now?
Auto 5 also is still a lot of times in the top sellers of games every month too. And you want to know why? The online mode, those shark bucks that you use to buy stuff in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
The thing is there's a lot of times there's deals where you can get like way more shark bucks for your money if you just buy like the boxed version of a game. Like they'll come out with like a re-release of Grand Theft Auto 5 and be like, 4 million shark bucks in this, which is far cheaper buying the $30 remake to get your 4 million shark bucks than is just buying them with cash. Yeah, so people are just like, screw it, I'll just buy the game again. So that's one reason you see those sales so high for it year after year. People are just buying it for the digital currency.
Like I played. I've never played the top-down GTAs. I played a little bit of them. I didn't like them. And so GTA 3 is the first one I really played through. I loved it. I beat it. I cheated because it was really hard, but I loved it. Yep. And then I played Vice City. That one I beat legitimately. I loved Vice City.
That was my favorite of them all so far.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of it has to do with the soundtrack, though.
That too.
When, you're driving along and the cops are chasing you with the military and everything. Gotten Buggles' Video Killed the Radio Star is just playing. You're like, just having a good old time running over people.
There's been more than one time where, like, my car's on fire, I'm at 5 stars, and I'm desperately trying to live just long enough to make it through the song.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My roommate walked in once while I was doing that. Like, that was exactly what happened. I was on fire, I'm driving, and I just want to make it, and I'm standing up singing because I'm like, oh, I love this fucking song. And he walks in, and I didn't even care. I'm like, dude, I'm
having like a religious experience singing to the game. And he's just like,
it was amazing, dude. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. But then San Andreas, I love San Andreas. I mean, it didn't make me nearly as joyful as Vice City did, especially with the music. But that game was huge.
I remember I liked San Andreas, but I remember when it first came out, for some reason, I kind of remember everybody being like, well, this is the worst one so far. And it not being like, I mean, it was popular and sold a ton, but I remember people doing more complaining than liking it. But nowadays people are like, oh, it's the greatest of the Grand Theft Autos. I don't know.
Well, also, I think
kind of a 180 on the opinion over the decades.
Well, I think also had to do with, like, at least around where you were living. It's a lot more people had more affinities toward, like, Florida 80s versus like the 90s thug.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you grew up in Oakland, you'd be definitely more for San
Andreas. I really did. I thoroughly enjoyed that game.
One thing I
that
really
being said, Vice City is still my favorite, but I love San Andreas.
The thing I like about San Andreas too is it had like those RPG stat building mechanics where if you just like rode a bike forever, you'd like gain bike riding stats, or if you drove, you'd gain your driving stats up.
Or if you ate a lot, you got fat, and you could run as far. I mean,
I like that. Just kind of add a little thing. Plus, that way, if you're just running around doing nothing, hey, at least you're watching some little bar go up.
And I mean, let's be real. GTA series have never been realistic, but like they kind of jumped the shark on San Andreas with certain things. Like, okay, I'm gonna have a jetpack flying around.
Yeah, right. And probably trying to keep up with Saints Row on those a little bit.
Yeah, and I will say, though, I thought the map was a little too big. I mean, I feel like I'm saying some kind of like a blasphemy here. But just like,
I kind of felt that way about Grand Theft Auto. I think it's 5 as well, where it's just like, hey, go do this mission. Well, I get to drive for 15 minutes to the other side of the map.
Yeah, there are definitely times where I'm just like, oh, come on. I just want to get there, and I'm trying to get from point A to point B, and I run over like 20 pedestrians. And
then you get almost to the mission place, and then the cops start chasing you.
Yeah, the cops start chasing after you, and you're like...
Then you get away from them, and you're right back on the other side of the map, and you're like, huh?
There are definitely, my complaints, especially with the size of the cities. And yeah, GTA 5 same way. That's actually one of the reasons why I stopped playing it was, well, I stopped playing it because they were forcing me to be characters I didn't necessarily like. I didn't like the meth head guy. I just didn't like him.
Yeah.
And they maybe be him. It's fine. I'm just trying to get through it. But I'm in the middle of nowhere in the desert somewhere. I just want to get back to the city, and I just can't seem to do it because I keep shit keeps on happening where I'm just like, I'm done. I don't.
Every
care
time
anymore.
you take a few steps, your phone rings, and they're like, "Hey, you want to go bowling with me?" And you're like, "Uh-huh." That's more Grand Theft Auto 4 that did that a lot, but still.
Now we skipped one, and GTA 4 is like, if I had to say my second best favorite one, like Vice City definitely is my favorite, but my second favorite was GTA 4. I loved that game. I mean, I like the character. Like Nico Bellic was amazing. You know, he was. Now, of course, it also like didn't make sense. You know, like here he is, like, oh, I'm such a tragic character because I have this backstory. I've done all these horrible things, but now I've come to America to live a better, decent life. Now, excuse me while I squeegee all the blood off my hood after running through a mall and killing 50 people. And then like, oh yeah, by the way, do you have any bullets? Because I wasted all my bullets are gone because I killed 30 people as I did a drive-by.
But I promise you, I'm going to start being good tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is the last mass killing I do tomorrow.
I showed up on my date with like, you know, there were small intestines clogging out my, like my engine was so full. I'm sorry, baby. My car is covered in blood and guts. Excuse me a minute. And like while she's standing there waiting, you run over there, kick, you know, fucking
pulling a corpse out of the windshield that's like half in and out of it.
Grab another car, throw him on the ground, shoot him in the face, drive around, go, okay, I'm ready for our date now.
Yeah. All right. What car do you want me to steal for our date? Oh, don't worry. If there's somebody in it, I'll just drag them out and beat them senseless.
Let me tell you how I'm trying to turn over a new leaf.
Oh, yeah. All this stuff, all this killing and car theft you're seeing right now. Oh, this is nothing compared to what I was doing last week. So trust me, I'm doing much better.
This is old me. This was 5 minutes ago me, not now me.
Why
now
can't you let go of the past? The blood is still fresh all over you, but that's in the past.
Can't you look past the past?
But it was my husband you killed, and that's why we're on a date now.
Yeah, that's why you're single.
I'm helping you heal from this.
So, back to Mark of Kri. Like, I'm trying to. I also don't have much more to say about it. You know, I really loved it. I wish people would go out and try it, but they're not going to, and I understand why. You know, because it's too far back. It's 2002. That was 20 years ago. Gaming has moved significantly since then, not just in graphics, but also in gameplay, and specifically in gameplay that involves stealth and action. You know, it's gotten better.
Yep.
It was great for back then. It's not great now. So I totally respect why someone would.
This game crawled so other games could run.
Right. And I mean, I really wish they would make either another Mark of Kri, like an updated Mark of Kri, or if they would make a new game with like similar feel. You know, like another really cartoony visual with a super bloody gameplay that allowed you to do you know, stealth and action and all these other elements. You know, it especially feel like Conan. You know, because I when people asked me that game back in the day, I was like, oh, it was like Disney Conan. Or I'm sorry, if Disney released a movie about Conan, but they didn't like take away any of the blood. That's how that game felt.
Yeah. So after doing this episode, I noticed you can get this on the PSN store for $15 and decided to say, hey, what the heck, let's give it a shot. Didn't make it through the whole game. Maybe about 2/3 of the way through. I got 3 of the 4 weapons, so I'm going to shoot 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. Then I bought a PS5 and forgot to upload my PS4 saves to the cloud, so kind of lost those and didn't really feel like starting all over again from the beginning. Well, does it hold up well? Actually, pretty good overall. It actually was about in line with what I remember it being. The action was pretty good. I enjoyed the combat. I loved the stealth kills as usual. In fact, the whole stealth in the game was a lot better than I remember. For that matter, it kind of goes from an action game at the beginning to more of a hardcore stealth by the end. Or at least some of the levels I did. Especially there's this one level where it's kind of like a big spiral going down. Non-stop stealth. Really, really good. Excellent level design. You could actually look around, see where everybody was, use your crow to scout ahead. Very, very good. Right up there with any Splinter Cell or Metal Gear level I've ever done as far as stealth. Very, very nice. The characters and the animation, really, really good too. The characters, at least the main ones you talked to that gave out quests, they did remind me a lot of Disney characters or Don Bluth characters. They all had little short bits, but they were very memorable. Good lines, good voice actors. Really enjoyed the characters in the game. I did talk the music up a lot in the game, talking about how, hey, Juno Reactor did it, lots of thundering drums. Everything got really exciting. The more you fought, the harder the battle, and the longer it went on, that the music would match it, build up tempo. And it kind of does that, not nearly as much as I thought it would. Still, good music, it's effective, but I remember it being a little bit better. Oh, and we also talked about the traditional Maori fighting staff and how the Maori people were not a big fan of it because you didn't use it right in the game. Well, I can see why they didn't like it because it seemed kind of pointless. I used it for a few moments. It was like great for groups. Didn't seem that great. Went back to the sword right away. Kind of disappointed. I will say the bow is amazing. Great bow mechanics. All sorts of fun, especially the bow stealth kills. Get to shoot somebody in the head, watch them scream, run around, be like, oh no, got shot in the face. And if there's somebody standing next to them, they just watch the whole thing and be like, huh, another dude got shot in the face with an arrow randomly. That's odd. Seems to happen a lot. Should I be concerned? Yeah, whatever. And they just go back to their whole little standing guard and just wait for you to shoot them with an arrow too. Maybe they don't like their jobs. Maybe that's the whole deal. I do kind of wish there was more variety of enemies. I mean, they do upgrade enemies after a while, but a lot of times it's basically, hey, here's your 2, maybe 3 different enemies for this entire level, and deal with them over and over and over again. So, wish there was a little more variety in that area. And one thing I noticed, I didn't get there, but I did have flashback to what the last boss is, and it's my absolute most hated way to do a last boss, where the last boss sits up on their throne and you gotta deal with wave after wave of henchmen until they hop down. You get one hit in, then they go back up on their throne, and then wave after wave after wave of henchmen over and over again ad nauseum. I hate that style of bosses, and I think most people do too. It just feels like they didn't have a good boss system set up, and they were just like, well, we could make a cool boss, but that takes a lot of effort. We got a deadline. So overall, I enjoyed the game for a little bit I played it. Was it worth $15? That's kind of iffy. I don't know if it's worth $15 unless you got a real interest in it. However, I did look at a price tracker, and it does go as low as $7.50. That's not a bad price. You get several hours of enjoyment for $7.50. In that case, I would go for it. But some of the best parts were the characters and the cutscenes and the kills, and you could probably just YouTube those really easily. Or, maybe buy the game. Maybe buy it at full price. That way, maybe they'll realize there's some interest in it, and they'll remake it. Make a whole new remake, HD remaster, whole 9 yards, which it'd be neat if they did that. I really don't think they should, though, because I really don't think anybody's going to buy that game if they do it. Sad, but it's the truth. Anyways, there's my review. I enjoyed my time with the game. It was good. Should you play it? Probably not. But if you're in the hankering for an old school PS2 game that's kind of hard with some good stealth that you probably never played before, go for it. This is Sean for Oft Off Topic. And, now here's that ending jingle we have. This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.